Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 46 of the Impact Code podcast. It's lovely to have you here. We have something a little bit different for you today. We're introducing our new podcast collective, and I'm joined by our two podcasters who have joined the podcast collective, and you will get to know a little bit more about them today because you'll be hearing a lot more of their content in the weeks and days and months to come. And so I am thrilled to be joined by Itote and Nish, who will introduce themselves. If you're listening and if you're watching, you'll get to see them and hear them shortly. Firstly, Itote, good morning to you. How are you doing this morning?
I'm good, Tafa. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be part of the team.
Great. And Nish, how are you doing?
I'm good, Tafa. Thanks so much. Like Itoto said, happy to be here, happy to be part of the team.
Awesome. So, we've got three podcasters on a podcast. That's a recipe for a 3.5 hour podcast, I guess. But so we're gonna try keep this short. Hopefully someone can listen to this while they're on their way to the shops. But yeah, I think it's quite fascinating. The world of technology. Itote, you are dialing in from a completely different location to Nation. I'm dialing in from a completely different location to any of you as well. But maybe let's start off, Nish. Maybe just tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Where are you dialing in from at the moment? And yeah, just a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I'm dialing in from Cape Town. I've lived here since 2008, so I've been here a long time. I grew up in Durban, went to high school there. I studied finance, a business science degree at UCT. Finished that in around 2011. So I feel quite old at this stage, if I'm honest. I've been in the finance industry for about 12 or 13 years now. So just working my way through the industry. And at this stage, I manage the equity team at a wealth management firm, and I'm also a portfolio manager, investing in companies locally and offshore. So I've developed over a number of years this passion for finance, and I guess that's what I'm here to share with you.
Great. And I think I love Durban. Thing I love about Durban is, winters, right? You don't need jackets. You don't need any of that. It's very different to Cape Town winter, though. Cape Town winter can be a little bit depressing. Itoti, you would know a little bit about that, having also studied with myself in Cape Town. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you dialing in from, and yeah, what do you do?
Yeah, thanks. So I am dialing in from Kampala, Uganda. I recently moved here to pursue a couple of different opportunities. I actually also studied in Cape Town. As Tafa alluded to, I was in the same class as him, studying chemical engineering. Actually, I quickly realized that I do not have any passion to pursue chemical engineering. Unlike Tafa, appreciate him, you know, holding down the fort. But I quickly realized that I have a really big interest and passion in technology and the broader landscape of technology. So I went into management consulting, and that's where I started my career. Spent the first 4 years, and that really gave me a chance to unpack and explore what this interest is, and really dig deep into some of the dirty details. So yeah, and now I'm trying to apply those things that I've learned. Trying to chase up a few different things. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and that's where we're going.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I think it sounds exciting, and I'm sure people are really keen to find out more about what you share with them. So guys, I think you've already touched on a little bit of your interests. So Itoto, I'll start with you. Maybe just tell me a little bit about your podcast that you're going to be running on the Impact Co podcast. Who is it for? What is it going to be about? What are we going to learn about it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, man. So I'm really going to be looking at community focused tech. And for me, what that really talks to is something quite close to my heart is the tech landscape in Africa, and I think it's something that globally everyone's really paying attention to, and it's changing really fast. And the reality is, Africa's technology landscape is really in its adolescent phases, changing quickly in relation to its global peers. Um, and I have the opinion that coming from behind actually gives us quite a few advantages moving forward. Puts us in a unique opportunity to look around, see what people are doing, see what's going right, see what's going wrong, and hopefully have a chance to do it better. So for me, this podcast is really focused on anyone who's interested in technology's role in their own industry, in the world around them. Sometimes they may get discouraged or turned off by all the jargon and all the buzzwords. My goal is really to find a way to make it easy to consume, easy to understand and learn about a vast range of things and how they all tie together. Um, and yeah, it's also for people who are generally just looking to explore and unpack all the different ideas, all the different projects and work that's going on around the world, around in Africa in particular. As part of that, we're also going to carry on with the theme and interview a bunch of exciting entrepreneurs, project leaders, people doing some really exciting transformational work. Um, yeah, hoping to learn a few things along the way. And the purpose really is to inform, it's to educate, and hopefully to inspire people into action. Hopefully it brings them a little bit closer to realizing some of the things that they've imagined, but yeah, hopefully struggle to build a bit of momentum towards. So yeah, educate, inform, inspire, and that's that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, and I think I'll let the listeners in, and say we've got some exciting, people planned and lined up for you to really interview and to give us that education and inspiration. And I think it's so important, right? In terms of the power of technology, with everything changing at a rate of knots, it can become difficult to keep up.
Exactly.
And so I think what you're going to be doing is going to be incredibly important, for people to get a gist of. Mish, tell me about what are you going to be up to? Given your work background, what is your podcast all about? Who's it for? What are we going to be hearing when you get onto the airwaves?
Yeah, it's interesting. I stumbled across finance when I got to university. And quite frankly, you can't really pick up any knowledge on finance at high school level. You can study accounting and economics, but finance is a subject that only pops up at university. So this passion of mine is taught at a very specific level. And unlike with sort of your profession, Tough, as an engineer, I think people can go most of their lives not knowing what an engineer does and just interact with the final product that comes out of a mine. With finance, it's very different. It's quite frankly an integral part of everyone's lives, whether you address it or not. And I think as I sit here today, it's so difficult for people to understand that they kind of just let it sit there on the side. So my goal is to sort of demystify finance a little bit,
Amazing.
to try and take away the jargon like Itoto is doing with technology, to help people to understand it better. And I think there's two very significant pillars that I want to work on. And it's crucial in my life, and I think for most working people. So finance sort of does two things crucially. One, it sort of lubricates business. If you want to become a small startup and grow into the next Facebook or Netflix or Amazon, you need finance to facilitate that growth. A lot of your listeners are going to be people that want to grow businesses in their day, and you need to then understand the finance world to be able to do that. From a completely different perspective, if you don't want to be the next Mark Zuckerberg, quite frankly, as a working person, part of your salary every month goes into a pension fund, a provident fund, a 501k, a 401k if you're in the US. And we kind of just let that happen. But that 401k or retirement annuity is supposed to unlock your financial freedom in retirement. And I don't think people understand that that money is being invested in the financial market. They don't understand how it happens. They don't understand if the amount that they're investing is correct. So I just want to bring all of that to the forefront and help people to understand. Predominantly, I'm going to talk about companies that we interact with every single day. And the reason why that's important is investing in companies has been one of the most reliable ways of gaining financial freedom, of growing financial wealth. And I think it's important for people to understand how these really important companies interact with us. That's one aspect. And then the second aspect is just demystifying some financial jargon, financial concepts, talk about what's happening on the ground, and hopefully sort of bring people into my world.
You, the listener, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Impact Hub podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. And this is just a little teaser of what's to come. So, from Itote, Nish, and myself, we say thank you very much and goodbye. Yeah, I mean, I already look forward to listening to your guys' podcast. I think I'll learn a lot, and I can no doubt say that the listeners will too. And I think, you know, Nish, if I had to start with you, and this would be the final question, what what impact do you think your podcast will make to people? What do you think the listener? How do you think the listener will be impacted by listening to your podcast?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, like I said just now, you interact with finance every day, whether you like it or not. So in this aspect of your life that's going to be so crucial, that's going to have arguably the biggest impact of your life long term, you you have to know what's going on about it. I want you to know what's going on about it. So that's the impact I want to have. The separate, slightly interesting discussion is if you take the younger generation, so millennials, um, the people born after 2000, so Gen X, Gen Z, whatever you want to call them, we've lost trust, I think, in the traditional financial system. We've gone through a couple of recessions, a global pandemic, there's geopolitical risks all around us. And unlike the sort of baby boomer generation that came before us that grew significant wealth from financial markets and investing in financial markets, our generation has lost a little bit of that trust. And we've sort of fallen into the trap of we want to do the get rich quick scheme idea. For example, fully ascribe to the theory of Bitcoin. But I think when we talk about Bitcoin on a day to day basis, for example, it's all about how can we get rich as quickly as possible and gain that financial freedom. Unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that. So I want to sort of bring that trust back into younger people's lives. And that's all about understanding. If you understand the system, you can trust the system. And like I said, it's one of the most reliable ways of unlocking financial freedom. So I want that impact to sort of be with our listeners to I want it to impact their lives from that perspective.
Amazing, amazing, and I think no doubt, a significant impact will be made to the listeners listening to that. That will unlock, so many tiers of knowledge for them. Itote, when we talk in terms of technology, how will your podcast make an impact to our listeners?
I think I'm going after that moment that the penny drops. I think for me, there's a lot that fascinates me about again just how integral technology is and everything that we do. Very similar to what Nish said with finance. If you try to ignore it, it won't really help you.
Yeah,
But getting some perspective and getting some understanding on where we're positioned relative to other people, where we're positioned relative to our own growth goals and the dreams that we're trying to achieve. How do all these building blocks actually fit in together to progress us towards those things?
yeah,
For me, it's always quite fascinating once you stumble upon something that unlocks an idea that probably you've had some sort of malleable understanding of or rudimentary understanding of, but all of a sudden things become a lot clearer. I think that's quite a powerful moment on a personal level, but also on a community level in terms of seeing a way forward to deal with problems and address things directly. I'm really hoping to really hit home with that and hopefully again just stimulate some creative thinking in the midst all the technicalities.
yeah. And I think that inspiration comes, with that stimulation of creative thinking, right? With the greater understanding of technology and with the greater, I would say, welcoming of it. It really will unlock, a lot of power within our communities, within our circles, within our spheres of influence, and that I think the impact of that is exponential. It's not something that we can even measure or touch, and so I really look forward to listening into to your podcast. And guys, I want to thank you for coming on to the Impact Code podcast. and sharing about the podcast that we're going to hear in the future. You can see I'm beaming, I'm smiling, I'm excited for what's to come. Just hearing that, I think, really makes me quite excited in terms of the impact that we're going to make as a collective, and the impact that Impact Code Podcast is going to continue to make in people's lives. And I think you've all mentioned the words educate and inspire. That's why we're here, and that's what we're trying to do, and hopefully to provide people with more knowledge that will empower them to make their world a better place, that will empower them to find their own greatness. So I want to thank you for coming onto the show, and next time you come onto the show, you'll be the host and not the guest. And to you, the listener, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Impact Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and this is just a little teaser of what's to come. So from Itote, Nish, and myself, we say thank you very much and goodbye.